Paul Regan Cassio,
Neely Ann Heffernan Casey,
William Joseph Cashman,
Thomas Anthony Casoria,
William Otto Casper,
Alejandro Castaño,
Arcelia Castillo,
Leonard M. Castriano,
Jose Ramon Castro,
William E. Caswell,
Richard G. Cattarelli,
Christopher Sean Caton,
Robert John Caulfield,
Mary Teresa Caulfield,
Judson Cavalier,
Michael Joseph Colley,
Jason David Kane,
Juan Armando Ceballos,
Marcia G. Cecil Carter,
Jason Michael Cefalu,
Thomas Joseph Selleck,
Anna Mercedes Centeno,
Joni Sesta,
John J. Chada,
Jeffrey Mark Chernoff,
Swarna Chalasani,
and my uncle Robert G. McElvain. Although I wasn't lucky enough to have met you, your spirit lives on in myself, my brother and sisters, and all those who loved you. I am honored to carry your name, and I am living proof that life loves on.
and my father, Daniel R. Nolan.
William A. Chalkoff,
Eli Challo,
Charles Lawrence Chan,
Mandy Chang,
Rosa Maria Chapa,
Mark Lawrence Charette,
David M. Charlebois,
Gregorio Manuel Chavez,
Pedro Francisco Checo,
Douglas Macmillan Cherry,
Stephen Patrick Cherry,
Vernon Paul Cherry,
Nestor Julio Chevalier Jr.,
Sweet Joseph Chevalier,
Alexander H. Chiang,
Dorothy J. Chicharo,
Luis Alfonso Chimbo,
Robert Chin,
Eddie Wing-Wei Ching,
Nicholas Paul Chiofalo,
John G. Tripura,
Peter A. Churchirillo,
Catherine Ellen Chirles,
Kayung Hee Casey Cho,
Abdul K. Chowdhury,
Mohammed Salahuddin Chowdhury,
Kirsten Lael Christophe,
Pamela Chu,
Stephen Paul Chutnick,
Wei Ching Chung,
Christopher Ciaffredini,
Alex F. Saccone,
Francis Ann Salenti,
Elaine Silo,
Edna Cintron,
Nestor Andre Cintron III,
Robert D. Siri Sr.,
Juan Pablo Cisneros,
Benjamin Keith Clark,
Eugene Clark,
and my husband, Dennis Michael Edwards. As I stand here today, the only thing I can say for certain is that despite the tremendous pain and heartache of losing you, time did not stand still for 1 second over the past 20 years. The best part of those 20 years was having our daughter, Alexa, by my side. Our then 2-year-old baby is now a grown woman and graduate of UNC Chapel Hill. Alexa is your legacy here on earth. She embodies all the good in you. Her green eyes, dimpled chin, kind heart, love of music, passion for people, willingness to help others, and enthusiastic love for life remind me of you each and every day. She even tilts her head and scratches the head the way you do, and she never even saw you do it. You missed every single milestone in her life over the past 2 decades, but we continue to move forward with only love in our hearts. Our family and friends continue to keep your memory alive, and with endless stories and reemergence of old pictures. You always carried the good torch, shining brightly wherever you went, and Alexa will carry it for you too. Thank you for the greatest gift I've ever received from anyone. For as long as we live, people will know your name and honor your memory. We love you, Den, and we love you, Alexa Marie.
And my uncle, firefighter Peter Alexander Bielfeld. We love you and we miss you, Uncle Peter. Thank you for being my godfather, and thank you for protecting this country.
Gregory Allen Clark,
Manny Leroy Clark,
Sarah M. Clark,
Thomas R. Clark,
Christopher Robert Clark,
Donna Marie Clark,
Michael J. Clark,
Saria Rachel Emma Clark,
Kevin Francis Cleary,
James D. Clear,
Jeffrey W. Cloud,
Susan Marie Klein,
Stephen Coakley,
Jeffrey Allen Cole,
Patricia A. Cody,
Daniel Michael Coffey,
Jason Matthew Coffey,
Florence G. Cohen,
Kevin S. Cohen,
Anthony Joseph Coladonato,
Mark Joseph Kaleo,
Stephen J. Kaleo,
Christopher Michael Colasanti,
Kevin
United States Navy.
Keith E. Coleman,
Scott Thomas Coleman,
Robert D. Colon,
Liam Joseph Calhoun,
Robert D. Jean Marie Collin,
Robert J. Call,
Joseph Kent Collison,
John Michael Collins,
Patricia Malia Kolodner,
Thomas Joseph Collins,
Sol E. Cohen.
Jeffrey Dwayne Coleman,
I'm done.
and my uncle Brian Christopher Novotny, whose tie I am wearing today proudly.
And my aunts, Maria Teresa Concepcion Santillan and Judy Santillan Fernandez. Tita Maritas, from the pictures and stories I've heard and seen, I know how beautiful you were. After 20 years, you are now reunited with Lola and Lolo, who passed away last year. Please be our guardian angel. We will never forget, and we will always remember you. God bless America.
And her husband, Yuguang Jin.
Susan P. Conlon,
Margaret Mary Connor,
Cynthia Marie Lice Connolly,
John E. Connolly Jr.,
James Lee Connor,
Jonathan M. Connors,
Kevin Patrick Connors,
Kevin F. Conroy,
Brenda E. Conway,
Dennis Michael Cook,
Helen D. Cook,
Jeffrey W. Coombs,
John A. Cooper,
Julian T. Cooper,
Joseph John Copo Jr.,
Gerard J. Coppola,
Joseph Albert Corpet,
John J. Corcoran III,
Alejandro Cordero,
Robert Joseph Cordis,
Ruben D. Correa,
Danny A. Correa Gutierrez,
Georgian Rose Corrigan,
James J. Corrigan,
Carlos Cortez Rodriguez,
Kevin Michael Cosgrove,
Dolores Marie Costa,
Digna Alexandra Costanza,
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, But now am found, was blind, but now I see. Grace toils and snares I have already come. 'Tis grace has brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me
Dad, it has been 20 years since you've been gone, and there's nothing I can say more than I miss goofing off with you. I miss your jokes, and nothing more makes me smile than the light I see in the smile of my daughter, who reminds me so much of you. We love and miss you, and I still wish you could be here to see how amazing and proud we're making you to be.
Gavin Cushnig,
Caleb Aaron Dack,
Carlos S. DaCosta,
Jason M. Dahl,
Brian Paul Dale,
John Dallara,
Vincent Gerard D'Amadio,
Thomas A. Damaskinos,
Jack L. D'Ambrosi Jr.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we pause on this solemn anniversary with heavy hearts as we remember this horrific tragedy took place on the grounds of the Pentagon, taking from us 184 of nearly 3,000 sons and daughters of our nation that perished on this day. We especially remember the surviving families and friends and ask your continued healing of the grief that they bear each day. We celebrate these great American heroes who have laid such a supreme sacrifice onto the altar of freedom. And Lord, we ask that you bring them comfort to all survivors as our nation remembers their patriotism. Oh God, we also remember and offer thanks to those who served, delivered aid, delivered assistance, and even saved others in this time of tragedy and need. Lord, 20 years later, our prayer is that we unite together as a nation and embrace one another with dignity and respect for all, that we seek peaceful resolutions, and we learn to choose love over fear each day. And Lord, with your help, oh God, help us find hope and forgiveness in ourselves and in this world which we live, that we can make a difference to everyone around us. Lord, through your help, through your guidance, through your loving grace, we pray this in thy holy name. Amen.
Reminded me of my brother, my larger than life, live out loud big brother who loved to make people laugh. And he was always there whenever something was needed. I loved and admired those things about him, and I began to emulate them. And it made me feel like I was picking up a baton that he had left for me. I started working with the 9/11 families, helping them navigate the emotional process of thinking about the memorial and connecting their concerns with the staff and designers and officials. John used to say, Thula, You got to have fun. You got to be daring with your life. And with that, I discovered a zest for acting. It was a new direction for me, a way to express creatively all that I felt inside, a way for me to share stories. Everything I was doing gave me the feeling that my brother Johnny was with me. You got this, kid. It takes a really long time to figure out who you are and who you were meant to be. And all of us had to find new ways to get there. But if I had given up, oh boy, my brother would have been so mad at me. His loss helped shape me into who I am today. And I know it's made me a better person. I came here, yes, with tears, but also a really happy heart to say that over the last 20 years, I have learned to live out loud just the way my brother taught me.
On this very ground, in seconds, scores of lives were lost. 184 men, women, and children were slaughtered in the violent impact and fury. 59 passengers and crew, 125 of our Pentagon colleagues, and the innocent ranged in age from 3 to 71 years old.
Storm, keep your chin up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone.
Rise or fall based on a merit. The idea of a free press, free speech, due process of law, the right to vote or peacefully assemble and protest for or against this cause or that. The idea of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All of that is what our fallen believed in and what they embodied. All of the values and principles embedded in our Constitution and made real in our daily lives were paid for with the blood of the fallen on this place at 9:37 on September 11th, 2001. Those ideas were and still are hated by our enemies, the fascists, the Nazis, the communists, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, the Taliban, authoritarians, dictators, and tyrants of all kinds. They hate those ideas. They hate those values. And on 9/11, they tried to destroy us. They tried to divide us. And they tried ultimately in vain to terrify us. But their murderous intent was never realized. Instead of sowing fear and division, we gathered in New York and Pennsylvania, right here at the Pentagon, and we came together as a nation with acts of heroism, unity, and perseverance, many conducted by you in the audience today. While we grieve for our fallen, we celebrate the life they led. Their legacy lives on in the idea that is America, and no terrorist anywhere on earth can ever destroy that idea. Since that dark day 20 years ago, the men and women of the United States military have fought tirelessly to defeat terrorists in Afghanistan and around the world. Both at home and abroad, their talent and their efforts and their courage, their personal valor has carried this fight day and night. We did not fear what was in front of us because we loved what was behind us. 800,000 of us in uniform served in Afghanistan over the last 20 years. Tens of thousands more have served elsewhere in the collective fight against terrorism. And thousands more stand watch today all around the world. 2,461 of us gave the last full measure of devotion, including 13 just 2 weeks ago, while 20,698 of us were wounded, and untold thousands more suffer with the invisible wounds of war as we close this terrible chapter in our nation's history. For 2 consecutive decades, our men and women in uniform, along with our brothers and sisters in the intelligence and law enforcement agencies, protected our nation from terrorist attack. For those of us in uniform, for our families who have suffered and sacrificed along our side, for those who have supported us, these have been incredibly emotional, exhausting, and trying years. We are all now, this very day, very conflicted with feelings of pain and anger, sorrow and sadness, combined with pride and resilience. But one thing I am certain of, for every soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine, for every CIA officer, for every FBI agent, for every cop and fireman, you did your duty. Your service mattered. Your sacrifice was not in vain. So let us resolve. Let us resolve here yet again today on this hallowed ground to never forget those who were murdered by terrorists. Never forget those who rushed to save their lives and gave theirs in exchange. Never forget the sons and the daughters, the brothers and sisters and the mothers and fathers who gave their tomorrows for our todays. Honor them. Honor them today and forever. Honor the cause they served. Honor their commitment to this experiment in liberty that we call the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now my pleasure and deep honor to introduce Secretary of Defense of the United States of America, the Honorable Lloyd J. Austin.
With you, having displayed strength and resilience in the face of tremendous adversity.
Through those that are still
We
here,
remember
and
and
all
we
the good
come
that you have
together
done be a
today
legacy that
to
continues
honor
on,
them.
that
Let
continues
us
to live
also
on.
remember
God bless
those
you all, and God bless
who
America.
perished at the World Trade Center
And my
and at the
sister,
Pentagon on that day
my beloved
20 years
sister
ago.
Diane Gladstone.
I ask that you please
Your
stand
extended
as you are
family
able
misses you
for our
and
national
loves you
anthem
every day.
performed by
Your
the
nieces
President's own,
miss you.
the United
Your
States
great
Marine Band.
nephews and niece,
Please
great
remain
niece
standing
miss you
afterwards for
and
the
will love you
invocation
forever.
led by Reverend Dr. Margaret Grun-Kibben, the chaplain of the United States House of Representatives.
Neil Matthew Dollard.
James Domenico.
By the dawn's
Patrick Dominguez.
what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam,
Stephen Scott
who brought life that bright
Kevin
spark
Christopher
through
Dodo,
the perilous fight.
Raymond
For
Matthew
the
Dolan Sr.,
ramparts we
Frank Joseph Doyle.
watched were so
Joseph Michael
gallantly
Randall
streamed,
Drake.
and
Patrick
the
Joseph Driscoll,
rockets red
Stephen
glare
Patrick Driscoll.
of a
Charles A.
bursting
Dross
in
III,
air
Myrna
gave
A. Duarte.
proof to
Luke
the
A.
night
Dudek,
that our
Christopher
flag
Michael Duffy.
was still
Gerard J.
there.
Duffy,
Oh, say
Joseph
does that
Thomas W.
star-spangled
Duffy,
banner
Jackie
yet
Sayed
wave
Zachary Ducati.
for the
Patrick
land of the
Lydia
free
Yale Donnie Jones.
Christopher
and the
Joseph Dunn,
home
Richard
of
Anthony
the
Dunstan.
brave.
Patrick Thomas Dwyer,
Joseph Anthony Akabachi.
John Bruce Eagleson,
Edward T. Earhart.
Would you
Robert
pray with me?
Douglas Eaton,
Dean Philip Eberling.
Holy and eternal God,
Margaret Ruth
we approach you
Eckerman,
today, keenly
brother,
aware of that
Ronald Philip
bucolic
Luckford,
morning 20
Police
years
Officer,
ago,
Emergency Service Truck 7.
when our nation's
Miss you,
peace was
love you.
shattered
and my
and
uncle
thousands
Martin
of souls
Morales
perished
Umpaltecas.
at the hands of evil.
Tío, aún te extrañamos.
As we honor
En
the
la familia,
heroic
aún
sacrifices
contamos
of the
tus
men
historias
and women of
y nos
Flight
gusta
93,
recordarte como el gran ser
we
humano que
yearn for a
fuiste.
sense of
Y
your
aunque
loving
han pasado
presence,
20 años desde que
because
no estás
only
con
in you
nosotros,
can we
sabemos
find
que no te
respite,
perdimos.
security,
Ganamos un ángel.
and peace in the midst of our memories, our grief, and even our anger. God, we pray your
Paul
blessing over this
Robert
gathering
Eckner,
and on all for whom this
Constantine
moment is an
Aparmos,
excruciating
Barbara
reminder of
G.
fear and
Edwards,
loss.
Dennis Michael Edwards,
Speak into the shadows
Michael
of these last
Hardy
2 decades,
Edwards,
which left
Christine
thousands of
Egan,
families bereft
Lisa
of loved ones
Aaron Egan,
and our country
Martin
fractured
J.
by the
Egan
devastation
Jr.,
we have seen
Michael
and
Egan,
experienced.
Samantha Martin Egan,
God, we pray
Carol
your
Egger,
blessing over this gathering.
Lisa Karen
Remind
Hurwitz,
us that the virtue that
John
our heroes
Ernst
displayed is
Eichler,
still alive,
Eric
that
Adam
freedom by
Eisenberg,
your grace is still
Daphne
ours.
Ferlinda
Then
Elder,
ennoble us as a
Michael
nation
J. Elferis,
to hold on to our unity.
Mark Joseph
We will not
Ellis,
ever surrender our
Valerie
commitment to
Silver
liberty and
Ellis,
justice,
Albert
no matter the
Alfie
cost.
William Elmery,
Robert
Bless
R.
us with a
Elsack,
sense of resilience born in our
Edgar
faith in you,
Hendricks
and may our
Emery-
tribute
Emery Jr.,
to those who gave the full
Doris
measure in defense of
Sukyun
freedom be
Pang,
worthy of their
Christopher
sacrifice
S.
and given
Wolf
in your
Rom
honor.
Erickson,
God
Erwin
bless
L.
America.
Erker,
And
William
receive our
John
prayers as
Irwin,
we offer them
Sarah
in the strength of
Ali
your name.
Escosega,
Amen.
Jose Espinal,
Fanny Espinoza,
Billy Scoop Esposito,
Bridget Ann Esposito,
Francis Esposito,
Michael A. Esposito,
Thank you, Chaplain Kibben, for
Ruben
those beautiful
Esquilin
inspirational
Jr.,
words.
Sadie
Ladies and gentlemen, please be
Barbara
seated.
G. Etzold,
Eric Brian Evans,
Robert Edward Evans,
Meredith Emily June Auer,
At this moment,
Catherine
20 years
K.
ago,
Hagan,
40
and my
brave
uncle,
individuals,
Łukasz
realizing
Tomaszewski,
their
who I
hijacked
never
plane
met, but I
was
miss
part
very
of a
dearly.
larger attack,
My mom always talked
were
about
preparing
how much of
to
an amazing
act.
brother you were. We were so
By
sad
talking
you had
to
go
people
so
on the
soon,
ground,
so young.
those
But I'll
aboard
love you
Flight
forever, and you'll
93
never be forgotten.
learned that the
and
World
my
Trade
uncle,
Center
Paul
and
Edward Jeffers.
the Pentagon
20 years
had been
later,
struck
we are still reminded
by
of
other
you and think of you
airliners.
every day. We love you and we miss
Galvanized by that knowledge, the passengers and crew members
Patricia
joined together
Mary
and
Fagan,
decided to fight back. In a moment of terrible uncertainty, they were determined to control their fate. Their collective action that morning continues to inspire Americans and people all around the world.
Keith
It is truly
George
fitting that we
Fairbairn,
pause to remember those
Sandra
individuals who lost their
Bahada-Smith,
lives and saved so many
Charles S.
when Flight 93
Falkenberg,
crashed
Dana
into the
Falkenberg,
hallowed ground
Zoe
just next to
Falkenberg,
us at
Janie
10:03
L. Fallon,
a.m.
William F.
Helping to pay
Fallon,
tribute to the 40
William
passengers
Lawrence
and crew
Fallon
members this
Jr.,
morning,
Anthony
Alan
J.
M.
Malone
Hantman,
Jr.,
the architect
Dolores
of the
Bridget
United States
Spinelli,
Capitol on September
Robert
11,
John Fangman,
2001.
John Joseph
Mr. Hantman
Fanning,
will lead the reading of the
Kathleen Ann
names
Farragut,
joined my family members who will read the names
Nancy
of their
C.
loved ones.
Dolaziski Farley.
After each name is read, Kevin Husek and Christian Boyd,
Elizabeth Ann
who were
Farmer.
first on the scene with an ambulance crew out of Somerset
John Gerard
to respond
Farrell.
after the crash.
John W. Farrell,
Those true
Terrence
heroes,
Patrick
those
Farrell.
patriots, both
Joseph
Kevin and
T.
Christian,
Farley,
Thomas Patrick
will ring the bells
Farrell.
of remembrance
Saeed
in their
Abdul
memory.
Fatah,
Following the
Christopher
moment of
Edward
remembrance,
Fawnin.
retired
Wendy
Los Angeles
R.
City
Faulkner,
Fire Department
Shannon
Battalian
Marie
Chief
Fava.
Stephen Ruda
Bernard D.
will offer
Favuza,
a brief reading.
Robert Fazio Jr.
Ronald Carl Fazio Sr.,
William
We cannot foresee what Churchill once called the originality of malice. But we do know that America will always lead. And we do know the only compass that can guide us through the storms ahead. It is our core values and the principles enshrined in our Constitution. Liberty, rights, the rule of law, and a fierce commitment to a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It is our job to defend the great experiment that is America, to protect this exceptional republic, body and soul, and to defend the American people in our democracy, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And ladies and gentlemen, we must be tireless guardians of our ideals as well as our security, because we cannot have one without the other. Let me thank again the families of the loved ones and survivors for all that you have given and for the inspiration that you provide. The hallways that we tread were the ones that so many of them walked. It will always be our duty to fulfill their missions and to live up to their goodness and to stand guard over this democracy. We still work here. We still remember here. And we still uphold our values here. With clear heads and fearless hearts. Thank you, and may God protect the United States.
John B. Fiorito.
Sandy Law Bradshaw.
John R. Fisher.
Andrew Fisher.
Bennett Lawson Fisher.
Gerald P. Fisher.
John Roger Fisher.
Marion R. Fisher.
Lucy A. Fishman.
Brian D. Fitzgerald.
Of this day, remind us to build up what has been torn down, to repair what is broken, overcome hate with love, and be a true instrument of peace.
Captain Jason Matthew Dahl.
Our dad, Joseph DeLuca.
My husband, Edward Porterfeld.
Jane C. Folger.
Colleen Fraser.
Wanda Anita Green.
My dad, Donald Freeman.
In loving memory of my brother, James Patrick Ladley. We miss you, Jim.
My
We're so
beloved
proud
brother
of your children,
and son,
Elizabeth and James.
Richard Jerry Guadagno.
Life has never been the same since you're gone. God bless America.
Andre T.
My brother-in-law,
Fletcher.
First Officer
Carl M.
Leroy
Flickinger.
Homer Jr.
Matthew M. Floco.
John
has never been the same since you're gone. God bless America.
Andre G. Fletcher,
Carl M. Flickinger,
Matthew M. Floco,
John Joseph Florio,
Joseph Walkden Flounders,
Carol Ann Flysick,
David Fodor,
Michael N. Fodor,
Stephen Mark Fogel,
Thomas J. Foley,
Jane C. Folger,
David J. Fontana,
Chi Min Fu,
Delrose E. Forbes Cheatham,
Godwin Ford,
Donald A. Foreman,
Christopher Hugh Forsyth,
Claudia Alicia Foster,
Noel John Foster,
Sandra N. Foster,
Anna Fosterus,
Robert Joseph Foti,
Jeffrey Fox,
Virginia Elizabeth Fox,
Pauline Francis,
Virgin Lucy Francis,
Gary J. Frank,
Morton H. Frank,
Peter Christopher Frank,
Colleen L. Fraser,
Richard K. Frazier,
Kevin J. Frawley,
Clyde Frazier Jr.,
Lillian Inez Frederick,
Andrew Fredericks,
Tamitha Freeman,
Brett Owen Freeman,
Peter L. Freund,
Arlene Eva Fry,
Alan W. Friedlander,
and my uncle Jason Malabuyo de Chavez. We love you and we miss you. Thank you for being our guardian angel.
and my hero and my guardian angel, my uncle, Lieutenant Jeffrey P. Walls, FDNY, Ladder 9, Great Jones Street. Although I never got the privilege to meet you, so many people tell me that I remind them of you in so many ways, and I'm so honored to have your name as my middle name. We love and miss you dearly.
Matzo, Carlton Douglas Bay Fife,
Frederick Neil Gabler,
Richard Peter Gabriel,
Richard S. Gabriel,
James Andrew
Mark
Gadiel,
David
Pamela
Rothenberg,
Lee Gaff,
Irvin Vincent Galliard,
Deanna Lynn Galante,
Grace Catherine Galante,
Anthony Edward Gallagher,
Daniel James Gallagher,
John Patrick
Christine
Gallagher,
Ann
Lord
Snyder,
J. Galetti,
Kono E. Gallo,
Vincent Galucci,
Deanna Lynn Galante,
Grace Catherine Galante,
Anthony Edward Gallagher,
Daniel James Gallagher,
John Patrick Gallagher,
Lords J. Galetti,
Kono E. Gallo,
Vincent Galucci,
Thomas E. Galvin,
Giovanna Galetta Gambale,
Thomas Gambino Jr.,
Gian F. Gamboa,
Ronald L. Gamboa,
Peter James Ganchi Jr.,
Michael Gann,
Charles William Garbarini,
Andrew Sonny Garcia,
Caesar R. Garcia,
David Garcia,
Jorge Luis Moron Garcia,
Juan Garcia,
Marilyn Del Carmen Garcia,
Christopher Samuel Gardner,
Douglas Benjamin Gardner,
Harvey Joseph Gardner III,
and my cousin, victim of the 93 bombing, Johnny Boy DiGiovanni. We love you. We miss you very much. Hope to see you one day.
and my grandfather, Rick Knott Jaggernaut. We love you and we miss you. You live on through all your children and all your grandchildren.
20 years ago, the world watched in horror as the terrorist attacks unfolded at the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and in this field near Shanksville. On that day, my vision here at this holy site was one of a lone fire engine with its crew at the ready for potential rescue and firefighting. Those first responders were shadowed by smoke rising from the impact zone into the nearby forest of the hemlock trees bordering this field. Now, my thoughts at the moment were that this was no longer a common field. It was traveled by so many who lived in this area, but this field was now sacred ground and common no more. So how did this vision of tragedy turn into a memory of complete victory? A wife of a fellow Los Angeles firefighter, Susie Bird, made a quilt, and then she asked Minnie to place a written message on the patches of that quilt. When I was given the pen, I recollected the vision that I had seen on September the 11th, 2001, and I wrote, "A common field one day, a field of honor forever." Now, these simple words caught the attention of one of the archivists who collected many thoughts that were sent here to this beautiful memorial. These words became the preamble for the mission statement that has guided and processed for permanently memorializing the 40 passengers and crew of Flight 93 over the past 20 years. Now, please, hear these words once again. A common field one day, a field of honor forever. May all who visit this place remember the collective acts of courage and sacrifice of the passengers and crew. Revere this hallowed ground as the final resting place of those heroes and reflect on the power of individuals who chose to make a difference. Peace be with you.
Thank you, Chief Ruda. Your eloquent words have truly helped to define our understanding of this hallowed ground, sir. Thank you. Once again, our sincere appreciation to Mr. Handman, all of our family readers, and finally bell ringers Kevin Husek and Christian Boyd. This nation relies upon the men and women of our military for our protection.
Attention stations. We currently have President Biden's shot departure from JFK on NBC 9. That's NBC 9. It's news channel.
I would like to acknowledge the men and women currently serving in our nation's military and all of our veterans who have so bravely served this country. Assisting with today's observance are 40 sailors from USS Somerset. Named for Somerset County, where Flight 93 crashed, she is one of 3 ships that remember the tragic events of September 11th, along with USS Arlington and USS New York. Thank you, sailors, for being with us this morning.
Manuel Gomez Jr.
Jose Bienvenido Gomez. And my brother Luis Eduardo Torres. I miss you. I love you.
And my brother Jason Michael Cefalu. Jay, we love and miss you every day. We can't thank you enough for all the hilarious stories and memorable laughs you left us with. You're deeply missed by your parents, your sister and brother-in-law, all your cousins, your best friends, and me. We live every day with enthusiasm and gratitude as you would have wanted.
Virtus per adversa. Courage through adversity. That is the motto of USS Somerset and the reason we gathered here today. To honor a remarkable act of courage by 40 strangers in the face of unimaginable adversity. Good morning, families and friends of the heroes of Flight 93. Vice President Harris, Mr. Emhoff, Governor Wolf, former President Bush, Mrs. Bush, Secretary Holland, Mr. Felt, Mr. Clark, and Chief Ruda. It is one of the highest honors of my life to be here representing the nearly 435 United States sailors and Marines currently serving aboard USS Somerset. Courage through adversity, a motto rooted in heroic action 20 years ago in the skies above us, means a lot to our crew. The story of Flight 93 is one of 40 people brought together by circumstance, most of whom knew no one on board, banding together in a time of crisis. I could think of no greater act of service, no higher calling, than prioritizing the lives of others when one's very existence is at stake. Defying comprehension, these unsuspecting people, suddenly thrust into an extraordinary situation, acted with complete selflessness in defense of cherished national symbols, important beacons to the world, and countless nameless faces below. On September 10, 2001, it may have been impossible to imagine, and yet we find ourselves here today in a quiet Pennsylvania field, reverently remembering such a selfless act. The Department of Defense's theme for this anniversary is Educate and Remember. Aboard Somerset, we take this responsibility very seriously. Every month, we gather our newly arrived sailors to help them adjust to ship life. This is their introduction to the crew, and ours to them. In recent years, many sailors reporting aboard were not yet in kindergarten or even born on that day the world stood still in 2001. This fact alone drives us to educate and remember, as we must recount to a fresh group of faces the story of our ship's namesake. We begin by repeating the ship's motto, pointing out to these young men and women who have no memory of that day that they serve on a ship that still means so much to so many Americans. They are presented with their duty. Join Team Somerset in rising above adversity, and together, as a crew, carry on the legacy of those 40 heroes. It is our job to continue defending those ideals for which they sacrificed. For their path to heroism was uninvited and unrequested. When those passengers and crew members boarded Flight 93 20 years ago, they assumed it was just another flight, to or from vacation, or simply part of the day's work. Adversity took them by surprise, but in response, they joined together and fought back. They put others ahead of themselves, a testament to service and sacrifice. This is what we live for on board USS Somerset, strangers banding together in terms of service and sacrifice. We on USS Somerset have a distinct advantage against adversity compared to those 40. We know it's coming. We will find ourselves in the enemy's sights, in the line of fire, standing between our country and those who would do her harm. We owe it to those 40 heroes to be ready. They deserve nothing less than our utmost effort to build on their example. I am proud to report that the sailors and Marines of USS Somerset some of whom are with us today, are ready to put others ahead of themselves. While Somerset's official motto honors the legacy of those individuals who mustered their courage in the face of adversity on that fateful morning, painted on the ship's hangar door, the phrase uttered in the moment of their heroic struggle reflects the inspirational actions of those heroes and serves as a stark reminder and masterful motivator for Team Somerset. Towering over the crew in times of peace and conflict alike, these words remind us all of sacrifice, service, and the call to rise above adversity. I am humbled to repeat those words today as USS Somerset honors the heroes of Flight 93 and the loved ones left behind by their sacrifice. So I will end as I end all of my addresses to the crew. Team Somerset, let's roll!
Dennis Patrick Oberg, Ladder 105. Cousin Dennis, we miss you with every passing day. Even the little ones have come to know and love you. Claire, Madeline, Colleen, Georgie, Rocco, and Arabella. We know your spirit is with us. So until we meet again, please keep watching over us.
Miley Rachel Hale.
Diane Hale McKenzie.
Richard B. Hall.
Stanley R. Hall.
Boswald George Hall.
Robert J. Halligan.
Vincent Gerard Halloran.
Carolyn B. Howman.
James Douglas Halverson.
Mohammed Salam Hamdani.
Felicia Hamilton.
Robert W. Hamilton.
Carl Max Hammond, Jr.
Frederick K. Hahn.
Christopher James Hanley.
Sean S. Hanley.
Valerie Joan Hanna.
Thomas Paul Hannafin.
Kevin James Hannaford, Sr.
Michael Lawrence Hannon.
Dana Ray Hannon.
Christine Lee Hansen.
Peter Burton Hansen.
Sue Kim Hansen.
Vasilios G. Haramis.
James A. Harlan.
Gerald Francis Hardacre.
Jeffrey Pike Hardy.
TJ Hargrave.
Daniel Edward Harlan.
Francis Harros.
Harvey L. Harrell.
Stephen G. Harrell.
Melissa Harrington Hughes.
Aisha Ann Harris.
Stuart D. Harris.
John Patrick Hart.
Eric Hartono.
John Clinton Hartz.
Emmerich Harvey.
And my brother-in-law, who I love like a big brother, Peter T. Milano. Your memory and spirit live on through Patty, Peter, Jessica, your 5 beautiful granddaughters, your entire family and friends. May you rest in peace. Till we meet again, we all love and miss you, Pete. And may God bless our country, our military, and all first responders.
And to our sister, Celeste Torres Victoria. Celeste was a model. She was our light with a vivacious and dynamic personality. When she walked into the room, it lit up.
She was intelligent, beautiful, elegant, a zest for life. Celeste attended NYU and graduated cum laude in journalism. As a woman of the media, she used that platform to advocate for women's rights and justice. Celeste left behind her beautiful daughter, Jasmine, who graduated from Duke University on a full academic scholarship. We will always miss and cherish the memories of our sister, Celeste Torres Victoria.
Remind us each day of what it means to be an American. In times of strife, we Americans, we come together. We comfort each other. We protect each other. And we stand up for each other. This memorial is a powerful reminder of what we have lost, but it's also a powerful reminder of the strength of the American spirit and of what we can do when we come together for the greater good of each of us. September 11th, 2001 was one of our nation's darkest days. And now, 20 years later, we look back and remember the people who brought light to that darkness, and who gave us hope when we were all sunk in despair, who reminded us how far we Americans can go to protect our fellow Americans. It's their example that each of us should strive to follow today and every day. Thank you very much.
Paul Francis Xavier Curran, John F. Heffernan, Michelle M. Hinberger, Sheila M.S. Hine, H. Joseph Heller, Jr., Joanne L. Heltebridle, Ronald John Hemingway, Mark F. Hemscott, Ronnie Lee Henderson, Brian Hennessy, Edward R. Hennessy Jr., Michelle Marie Enrique, Joseph Patrick Henry, William L. Henry Jr., Catherine Henry Robertson, John Christopher Henwood, Robert Allen Hepburn, Mary Herencia, Lindsay C. Harkness III, Harvey Robert Hermer, Humberto Hernandez, Raul H. Hernandez,
I never saw myself before you looked at me, before you kissed my face, before you smiled at me. And I knew that day I would never be alone. And it's the only way. Life never got me low. Tears never broke me down. Inside I always know I'd be by your side. So I'd never be alone. If you fall, I'll catch you. I won't ever let you be. I never want you to feel uncertainty. I listen to every word, believe every single dream. The world has a funny way of making you feel like you're alone. And when trials and troubles come, loved one, you know that your welfare is my concern. And if I'm far away, you know that I'll find my way back to your side. When the tide starts to roll and the wind starts to blow, when the thing you're afraid of is invisible, you'll never be alone. You'll never be alone. If you fall, I'll catch. I won't ever let you be alone. If you fall, I'll catch. I won't ever let you be alone. No, you'll never be alone.
Thank you. That was a perfect song to follow up to my hymn.
Second gentleman, President and Mrs. Bush, Secretary Holland, Governor Wolf, Captain Kurtz, Ambassador Kibben, Steve, Superintendent Clark, distinguished guests, families, friends, ambassadors, and all that join us today, near or far. I welcome you to the 20th Remembrance Ceremony of September 11th, 2001, here at the Flight 93 National Memorial. To the men and women that serve aboard the USS Somerset here today, and all of those active duty members and veterans in attendance, near and far, you honor us with your presence. And we must never forget that there are thousands of your brethren gravely injured, or that have lost their lives while serving, or as a result of their service during these past 20 years. Their loss reminds us that September 11th was not a singular event, but a date that marked a cultural paradigm shift in our country and for freedom-loving people across the globe. To the families of Flight 93 here and at home, honoring a loved one, my heart goes out to you. Having lost a brother on September 11th, I too live with a grief that is deep, consuming, and always present. For those that lost loved ones in the terrorist attacks in our country 20 years ago today, you know that we can never move on, but that we must continue to move forward. On September 11th, 2001, we lost a total of 2,977 innocent souls. And that morning, more than 6,000 people were injured in the attack on our country. 2,606 died in the World Trade Center, 125 at the Pentagon, and 246 innocent people were murdered on the 4 hijacked planes, 40 of which were on Flight 93, brought down here in a field just outside of Shanksville, Pennsylvania, as our heroes fought to overcome the evil brought to our shores that morning. To date, An additional 2,000 first responders that took part in the immediate rescue and continued recovery efforts have died through related illnesses. And with every month, we continue to lose more. The ripple effect of September 11th is unfathomable. There are still many questions to be answered about the day, facts to be declassified and released, and justice to be served. So much of September 11th involved pain, loss, and terror. Our lives were never to be the same. And yet, from the ashes of the day, stories of heroism and extraordinary courage emerged, providing hope to a world adrift in fear and confusion. First responders running into burning buildings with little regard for their own safety, while citizens inside those buildings refused to run from danger so that they could offer assistance and comfort to those less able, surely knowing that their decision would cost them all but their honor. And here in the skies over southwestern Pennsylvania, a group of 40 individuals, mostly strangers, when becoming aware of what was taking place on the ground that morning, found the courage to band together at a moment's notice, without regard for political, religious, professional, or cultural differences. Our 40, under extreme conditions, were able to change the course of history, averting the potential of our final image that fateful day being the Capitol dome, collapsed and on fire, the greatest symbol of our democracy in ruins. As the personification of that symbol, our heroes embrace the tenets of democracy that no expression of terrorism will ever extinguish. E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. Our heroes united. They formulated a plan when confronted by a great evil. They prayed. They voted on a course of action, and then they struck. Though in the process, they lost their lives, there is no question that they won the first battle in this current war on terrorism. 35 minutes, 9:28 to 10:03 a.m. From the initial terrorist attack on Flight 93 until the moment the plane came down on our sacred ground. A lifetime, a moment, forever, yesterday. Here on the ground, first responders, aware of what was taking place in New York, at the Pentagon, and in the midst of fear and uncertainty, instinctively reacted to the horror that was brought to their rural community in a way that has forever altered their lives. These proud men and women of Somerset County and the surrounding region demonstrated everything that is awesome about the United States of America. Terrorism met rural America, proud, strong, determined. The relationship our families and our nation has forged with this local community is extraordinary. To our extended family here in the Somerset County region, you will forever have our complete gratitude. You have embraced us and the story of our loved ones in a selfless, fiercely protective fashion, even as you continue to move forward, carrying the pain and anguish thrust upon your community 20 years ago. Recently, I was listening to former Congressman Trey Gowdy discussing the ultimate sacrifices made by our men and women in uniform. During his remarks, I was struck by a common theme that I do not recall highlighted in prior years. It was a theme that I felt strongly was consistent with the story of the heroes of Flight 93 and all those we lost on September 11th. I experienced a moment of clarity that brought my understanding of heroism and of sacrifice to an uncomfortable reality. moving me to question who we are as a society. What struck such a nerve was not the annual reminder to honor and remember the thousands of lives ripped from the embrace of their families the morning of September 11th, 2001, including the 40 heroes of Flight 93. But rather the question to be considered is, are we worthy of their sacrifice? Are we worthy? Do we as individuals, communities, and as a country conduct ourselves in a manner that would make those that sacrificed so much and fought so hard on September 11th proud of who we have become? Do we share the same willingness to sacrifice for others in little ways as well as large? To act when necessary for no other reason than to accomplish a noble goal, egoless, and with no other motivation than to do what is right? Do we cherish the hard-earned freedoms that we enjoy, secured every generation by those willing to stand toe-to-toe with anyone or any country willing to steal them away? The real question that we must all ask ourselves is, have we as a society moved on and left the hard-earned lessons of September 11th behind? Have we become desensitized to what really happened that fateful morning? Have we diminished the courageous actions of these brave men and women, these heroes we honor today at the Flight 93 National Memorial, as well as those in New York City and at the Pentagon, by relegating their stories to the history books? As a country, we shouldn't seek to move on, but rather let us dedicate ourselves to moving forward, honoring and remembering the sacrifices made on September 11th, the lessons we learned, remembering the names, the individuals, and the collective actions of so many that day. Let us be worthy of the selfless sacrifices that were made. Let us remember who we became on September 12th. In the aftermath of September 11th, we saw beyond our differences so that in unity we could survive the devastation of the day. E pluribus unum. Out of many, we became one. That is the inspiration of September 11th. Whether it was in the air or on the ground that morning, heroism was revealed. History was made, and the course of our lives were changed forever. The path we follow is up to us. Let us strive to be worthy of those we lost that morning. Our 40 heroes, our loved ones, and the thousands of other innocent lives extinguished that day and in the aftermath of September 11th. E pluribus unum. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgie. An enduring moment in the days after September 11th occurred when President George W. Bush used a bullhorn to speak to firefighters at Ground Zero in New York. His words provided sorely needed encouragement to a grieving country. A common thread of heroism running through each of the 3 attack sites on September 11th was the devotion to duty shown by our first responders. They made the nation proud then, and they continue to do that now. Thank you to all of our first responders across these great United States, for we are truly grateful for your service. greatly honored now to present our next speaker, the 43rd President of the United States of America, George W. Bush. Ladies and gentlemen, accompanying him today is First Lady Laura Bush, who occupies a special place in the hearts and families of Flight 93. For on September 17th, Mrs. Bush traveled here to offer her condolences and to those of America, to the families and passengers of Flight 93. President Bush is fondly remembered by everyone involved in the effort to commemorate the heroes of Flight 93 for signing the act that created this national memorial on September 24th, 2002. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 43rd President of the United States.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Laura and I are honored to be with you. Madam Vice President, Vice President Cheney, Governor Wolf, Secretary Holland, and distinguished guests. 20 years ago, we all found in different ways, in different places, but all at the same moment, that our lives would be changed forever. The world was loud with carnage and sirens, and then quiet with missing voices that would never be heard again. These lives remain precious to our country and infinitely precious to many of you. Today we remember your loss, we share your sorrow, and we honor the men and women you have loved so long and so well. For those too young to recall that clear September day, it is hard to describe the mix of feelings we experienced. There was horror at the scale of destruction, and awe at the bravery and kindness that rose to meet it. There was shock at the audacity of evil, and gratitude for the heroism and decency that opposed it. In the sacrifice of the first responders, in the mutual aid of strangers, in the solidarity of grief and grace, the actions of an enemy revealed the spirit of a people, and we were proud of our wounded nation. In these memories, the passengers and crew of Flight 93 must always have an honored place. Here, the intended targets became the instruments of rescue, and many who are now alive owe a vast, unconscious debt to the defiance displayed in the skies above this field. It would be a mistake to idealize the experience of those terrible events. All that many people could initially see was the brute randomness of death. All that many could feel was unearned suffering. All that many could hear was God's terrible silence. There are many who still struggle with a lonely pain. There are many who still struggle with a lonely pain that cuts deep within. In those fateful hours, we learned other lessons as well. We saw that Americans were vulnerable, but not fragile. That they possess a core of strength that survives the worst that life can bring. We learned that bravery is more common than we imagined, emerging with sudden splendor in the face of death. We vividly felt how every hour with our loved ones was a temporary and holy gift. And we found that even the longest days end. Many of us have tried to make spiritual sense of these events. There is no simple explanation for the mix of providence and human will that sets the direction of our lives. But comfort can come from a different sort of knowledge. After wandering long and lost in the dark, many have found they were actually walking step by step toward grace. As a nation, our adjustments have been profound. Many Americans struggle to understand why an enemy would hate us with such zeal. The security measures incorporated into our lives are both sources of comfort and reminders of our vulnerability. And we have seen growing evidence that the dangers to our country can come not only across borders, but from violence that gathers within. There is little cultural overlap between violent extremists abroad and violent extremists at home. But in their disdain for pluralism, in their disregard for human life, in their determination to defile national symbols, they are children of the same foul spirit, and it is our continuing duty to confront them. After 9/11, millions of brave Americans stepped forward and volunteered to serve in the armed forces. The military measures taken over the last 20 years to pursue dangers at their source have led to debate. But one thing is certain. We owe an assurance to all who have fought our nation's most recent battles. Let me speak directly to veterans and people in uniform. The cause you pursued at the call of duty is the noblest America has to offer. You have shielded your fellow citizens from danger. You have defended the beliefs of your country and advanced the rights of the downtrodden. You have been the face of hope and mercy in dark places. You have been a force for good in the world. Nothing that has followed, nothing can tarnish your honor or diminish your accomplishments. To you and to the honored dead, our country is forever grateful. In the weeks and months following the 9/11 attacks, I was proud to lead an amazing, resilient, united people. When it comes to the unity of America, those days seem distant from our own. Malign force seems at work in our common life that turns every disagreement into an argument, and every argument into a clash of cultures. So much of our politics has become a naked appeal to anger, fear, and resentment. That leaves us worried about our nation and our future together. I come without explanations or solutions. I can only tell you what I've seen. On America's day of trial and grief, I saw millions of people instinctively grab for a neighbor's hand and rally to the cause of one another. That is the America I know. At a time when religious bigotry might have flowed freely, I saw Americans reject prejudice and embrace people of Muslim faith. That is the nation I know. At a time when nativism could have stirred hatred and violence against people perceived as outsiders, I saw Americans reaffirm their welcome to immigrants and refugees. That is the nation I know. At a time when some viewed the rising generation as individualistic and decadent, I saw young people embrace an ethic of service and rise to selfless action. That is the nation I know. This is not mere nostalgia. It is the truest version of ourselves. It is what we have been and what we can be again. 20 years ago, terrorists chose a random group of Americans on a routine flight to be collateral damage in a spectacular act of terror. The 33 passengers and 7 crew of Flight 93 could have been any group of citizens selected by fate. In a sense, they stood in for us all. The terrorists soon discovered that a random group of Americans is an exceptional group of people facing an impossible circumstance. They comforted their loved ones by phone, braced each other for action, and defeated the designs of evil. These Americans were brave, strong, and united in ways that shocked the terrorists, but should not surprise any of us. This is the nation we know. And whenever we need hope and inspiration, we can look to the skies and remember. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. President, for those beautiful, insightful words. You know, President Bush and Mrs. Bush have visited here several times. We are delighted, of course, to have them with us here today, now that the memorial has been completed. The design for this memorial, which so beautifully frames this site, is the work of Paul Murdoch Architects. A deeply felt thank you to Paul and Melina Murdoch, who are with us here today, and to their entire